couple of months ago, actually November 1, I found our next guest, and he accepted me as a customer. And ever since then, I've been on Team Charles, exercising. Really weird. People are like, how'd you lose all this weight? I say it's this really funky new diet. They call it exercising more, eating right. Team Charles D'Angelo is that guy who's helped me. Charles, welcome back to the show.
What's going on there, McGraw?
We have you on once a month. You're on with Christine Buck. Every Thursday?
Every Thursday at noon.
Every Thursday at noon.
Christine has me on, and then you're on, too, and that's in the same hour.
Right, and we bring you on once a month to give us some helpful hints and some helpful things to lose weight. And it's really interesting how so many people want to lose weight and talk to me about how you did it, and then go right on with their own bad eating habits.
People get caught up in never getting over building a little bit of momentum. They get stuck in that first week from shifting from whatever they're doing to a new way of eating, which is usually a bit of a difficult change. They never get over that pain of change, so they're always going through this painful thing of they get started, they go for about a week, but they don't make the breakthrough because, let's face it, when you start exercising and you haven't exercised in a long time, your body's going to feel that for a couple of days.
Right.
And you're going to be sore and you're going to feel it. And people sometimes get deterred after a few days of that. They just go back to their old habits. And they always repeat that cycle, so they associate a lot of pain to it. When you work with me, we break through that really quick. We create a lot of momentum real fast so that when we see results, we're building on that success instead of building on failure.
How many times did I try and lose weight, and I said, all right, that's it. Today's a new day, put my sneakers on, went out and tried to jog 5 miles, finished it, exhausted, and then the next day or that night, it's like, well, I just ran 5 miles. I'm going to have a pizza.
Yeah, rewarding yourself with the root of the problem, is what so many people say they do, that they'll go all week and they'll be really good on a plan and they'll eat right and they'll exercise and they'll try to stay with it as much as they can. And then come Saturday and Sunday, they're not working, so they lose their structure of their day. They start eating all the wrong foods. And come Monday, they've washed away the previous week's work, so they feel totally discouraged from their program and they go right back to their old lifestyle.
Charles, hold on a second. We got some news here. Live anchored coverage of President Obama. President Obama is expected to make remarks regarding the Times Square bombing suspect and the arrest. 10:05 at the top of the hour. KTRS will be covering President Obama's news conference in which he's going to make remarks regarding the attempted bombing and the arrest late last night of the suspect at JFK. Talk about there are some simple things people can do to sort of maybe not go hardcore, but if they cut out regular soda.
What I say is people ask, what do you do, Charles? What makes all this work? When people come to see you, it seems that they change automatically. I mean, are you hypnotizing them? What are you doing?
Right.
And all I say is that what we do is raise people's standards. When you came to see me, it wasn't that you really lacked the knowledge of what was good for you or what was bad for you. It was that you were just complying with whatever was expected with those you associated with. Before we went on air, we were talking about how the summertime just really presents so many more challenges than winter and fall, because you have barbecues, you have vacation, you have Ted Drew's season, right? All those things come up. So what I ask people to do when they come to see me is, number one, raise their expectation level on themselves. Instead of saying, well, you know what, I really should start working out, or I really should start eating right, or I really should this, make it something that you must do. When you wake up in the morning, I always encourage my clients, number one, you ask for a tip, is get exercise in at least 5 times a week, consistently through the week, and try to make it, if you can wake up early enough and your schedule permits, the first thing you do out of the day. When you wake up, commit to that first hour being your cardio time, or if you have the opportunity to lift weights, do it in that first hour, because that success of accomplishing something, of getting out there, of lifting, of walking, of doing all the exercise and feeling great is going to help you build the rest of the day to be as successful as that workout was.
You don't want people to run 5 miles a day. Matter of fact, this was what was shocking about it, was you said stop running, and I want you to walk.
Start walking.
For 35 minutes on a treadmill.
Stop taking on more than you should initially. A lot of people overload themselves with feeling like they need to do all this at once. Now, when you come to see me, we come up with a very structured way of doing it so that you know exactly what to do as far as when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat, and the exercise I need you to do. You need to get your focus on what needs to be done instead of trying to overwhelm yourself with all this information. And a lot of people say that's another part that makes the whole system that I put in place with people work, and that I take all the guesswork out of it. There is no guesswork.
Right.
It's this is what you're going to do, this is when you're going to do it, and this is why you're going to do it. And once you get that wrapped up in your head, it's so easy to stick with it because you can actually start to see results after a week or so of doing it. But it's breaking through that first week.
Never in a million years would I have thought walking on a treadmill for 35 minutes. And now you would, as we went along, you would increase it 5 minutes every 2 weeks or something, and you would increase the incline. But after 35 minutes, 40 minutes of walking on a treadmill, you're drenched in sweat.
If you're doing it at a consistent incline, that's a challenge for you. For some people, they never have to do really more than 40 or 45 minutes. For other people, they have to do nearly an hour. For other people, like yourself, we have to get up to doing even a more rigorous exercise. You're doing now the Stairmaster as well as the treadmill. Right. And that's after a surgery.
Right.
I mean, that shows what type of condition you're in and how great you are as far as physical shape.
Shows you how huge I am. Yes,
I mean, you're small enough now fitting in women's jeans, aren't we? Or
well, I was always in women's jeans. They were just bigger. Charles, talk for a moment about chasing the sugar high, because a lot of people get into this problem.
What I do with my clients is I eliminate all simple sugars initially. Okay, so I take away, even as far out as it sounds, for the first couple weeks, I ask that my clients not have fruit, okay, because we want to give the pancreas a rest. We don't want all this excess insulin going through our system, because that irregularity of blood sugar levels, blood glucose levels, causes those hunger issues that people have where they can't feel like they're satiating it. You know, they eat more and they eat more. It's this vicious cycle of they eat something because it's low calorie or it's low carb or whatever, but it still has a lot of simple sugars in there. That's not nourishing them. It's not satiating them. It's probably very low protein. What ends up happening is they're hungrier for something more because their body's trying to get them to keep their blood sugar stable in a homeostatic place, but instead they just keep putting things in that are raising it and lowering it and raising it and lowering it.
And you're constantly chasing that sugar high.
You've got it.
And you think you're hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so you go and get a giant Snickers bar or a giant bag of M&Ms, guilty as charged. You're really not hungry, but you think you're hungry, so you eat the bag of M&Ms, the jumbo size.
And you say, well, it's just a handful. Or how about these new things you see out? Everybody sees these like little 100-calorie packs. I hope they're not a sponsor of the show.
Yeah, no.
but like Nabisco 100-calorie packs or whatever. And people think, well, it's only 100 calories of Oreos. What's the big deal? It's still having the same ramification on your body. If you're out there and you're trying to find out what you need to do, pick up simple things like with you, McGraw, we use nuts a lot, almonds. Cashews are great.
Right.
Cheese is excellent. You don't have to go on some high-protein, no-carb diet. Quite the contrary. Just make sure the carbs that you're eating are things that are complex carbs, things like whole grains.
Right.
Whole grain bread. If you're going to eat bread at all, keep it with a wheat bread or a whole grain bread. If you're going to have cereals, again, make sure they're high in fiber. And see if you can't find one that has a little bit of protein in there, too, because that protein is going to keep you feeling satiated.
That's the thing that I think is fascinating is when you're eating right, you're not hungry. And you find yourself eating nuts and berries and chicken and spinach, and it's good and good for you, and you're not hungry. And
you're actually nourishing yourself instead of chasing that hunger day in, day out with no end in sight with it.
Charles, Team Charles D'Angelo. Charles, how does somebody get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, www.charles, C-H-A-R-L-E-S, D'Angelo, DANGELO.com. There's a link on your site if you go to KTRS.com and you go to McGraw's show page, and then the links. It says McGraw's Diet Guy, CharlesD'Angelo.com.
McGraw's Diet Guy, Team Charles. Charles, let me thank you publicly because I said this a couple times, but the doctor said if I wasn't in as good a shape as I was in, that surgery I would have had would have been much worse. So thank you for everything.
It's my pleasure. And, after your conversation about the cameras, I'm thinking about putting in what I'm going to call F-squared cameras, fast food cameras at all the fast food restaurants, and they're going to take pictures of the face, not the license plate. So that way I can see who's actually going.
Not the caboose, the front part.
Yes, the front part. So that way I can actually find all the people that are going on my program.
Guilty as charged. No, Charles, it's great. And if people are, you work with young, old, teenagers, adults.
People
whoever.
from all walks of life.
Right.
And people that are just ready to change and ready to make it a must.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. Team Charles D'Angelo, our guest, 9:50 here on the Big 550 KTRS.